Yeah. And if anybody should have disowned me, it should have been her. You know, she should have been the one. She should have been the one to throw me out like,
Hulk Hogan's rocky relationship with his daughter Brooke was never a secret, but no one knew just how deep the damage went until now. After Hogan's death, a disturbing message from Brooke to her father surfaced in court, throwing the entire will into chaos and putting her inheritance at risk. She might even be cut off completely. Here's the breakdown of the final messages that made a judge erupt. On July 24, 2025, the wrestling world was stunned by news that sent shockwaves through the entertainment industry and beyond. At 71 years old, Hulk Hogan, the legendary icon who defined an era of sports entertainment, passed away from cardiac arrest at his home in Clearwater, Florida. The initial reports of Hogan's death seemed straightforward.
Just before 10 a.m. today, Clearwater Fire and Rescue along with the Clearwater Police Department responded to a house in the 1000 block of El Dorado Avenue for a medical-related call. It was discovered at that time Terry Bollea, also known as Hulk Hogan, was experiencing a serious medical-related issue. Personnel provided medical treatment at that time and transported Mr. Bollea to Morton Plant Hospital, where he died at 11:17.
The authorities were quick to say there were no signs of foul play or suspicious activity, but the wrestling community knew this was far from the end of the story. For weeks before his death, rumors had been spreading about Hogan's declining health. The whisper started with Bubba the Love Sponge, who claimed Hogan was in serious medical trouble. Hogan had recently undergone major neck surgery, a 4-level anterior cervical discectomy and fusion, a highly intense procedure that affected not only his spine but also his vocal cords and required breathing tubes during surgery. The revelation of Hogan's private communications came to light during the initial probate proceedings of his estate. Even though Brooke had requested to be removed from her father's will months before his death to avoid financial disputes, legal requirements still demanded that family communications be reviewed to ensure the estate was handled according to Hogan's final wishes under Florida law. What the legal team found on Hogan's personal devices painted a heartbreaking picture of a man desperately trying to reconnect with his daughter while struggling to face the pain he had caused. The messages showed that Hogan had been reaching out to Brooke in his final months, confiding in her about personal and business issues. But Brooke said she felt a disconnect when he made choices she believed were harmful to him. The judge overseeing the proceedings, who asked to remain unnamed due to the sensitive nature of the case, was reportedly shaken after reviewing the communications. Legal observers described the moment as one of rare judicial emotion, as the messages revealed the depth of pain and dysfunction within what had once been America's most famous wrestling family. Though the messages were not released in full, they painted a picture of a father and daughter who loved each other deeply but could not bridge the gap created by years of hurt. Brooke's final conversation with her father took place 2 weeks before his wedding to Sky Daily in September 2023 and included expressions of love and concern for his health. The messages showed that Hogan had treated Brooke as both a daughter and a confidant, sharing his struggles and worries. But his later decisions, which she saw as self-destructive, pushed them further apart. The revelation that Brooke had been excluded from her father's final medical procedures, despite attending nearly 25 of his previous surgeries, became much more significant when viewed alongside these private communications. The messages revealed that Brooke's exclusion from her father's final medical procedures hadn't been a matter of simple logistics or family politics, but the result of deliberate choices made by those in Hogan's inner circle, choices that kept a dying father from having his daughter by his side when he needed her most. The judge's emotional eruption reportedly came while reviewing messages showing Hogan's awareness that his marriage to Sky Daily had created what Brooke described as a force field around him, leaving him torn between loyalty to his new wife and his desire to reconnect with his daughter. This inner conflict ultimately contributed to his inability to bridge the gap with Brooke. The most shocking revelation came from messages showing Hogan's private response to Brooke's March 2025 abuse allegations. While Hogan had remained publicly silent about the controversy, the private messages revealed a man deeply conflicted, sometimes denying the allegations, sometimes expressing regret, and at other times appearing to acknowledge their truth. These messages, never intended for public view, painted a portrait of a man wrestling with his conscience, unable to take the public steps that might have led to reconciliation. When Brooke released her public statement after Hogan's death, she said she felt at peace after receiving some form of apology from her father. The communications suggest that apology may have been delivered through intermediaries or in a final message not preserved in the digital record, marking one last attempt by a dying father to make peace with his estranged daughter. Brooke's proactive decision to request removal from her father's will also took on new meaning when viewed in light of these revelations. The messages showed this decision was not motivated by anger or spite, but by a genuine desire to protect herself and her family from further trauma. She told her father she wanted no part of his estate because she feared financial ties would only prolong the toxic family cycles that had already caused so much pain. These private messages exposed the depths of suffering both Hogan and Brooke endured and reopened old wounds about the Hogan family, revealing secrets no one had imagined. If fans thought Hulk Hogan's biggest controversies came from feuds in the wrestling world or tension with stars like The Undertaker, they were nothing compared to the fallout from his own daughter. Brooke didn't just distance herself, she reportedly excluded herself entirely from her father's inheritance. The bombshell that changed everything came in March 2025, just 4 months before Hogan's death, when the family's private pain went public in the most devastating way possible. Brooke took to social media to accuse both of her parents of years of vicious verbal, mental, and even physical abuse dating back to her childhood. Her Instagram statement was explosive, laying out years of manipulation, lies, and being used as a pawn in her parents' conflicts. These were not vague accusations or casual family grievances, but specific, detailed allegations that cut straight through Hulk Hogan's carefully built image as a devoted family man. The accusations were especially shocking because Brooke had long been her father's strongest defender. When Hogan faced backlash over his racist comments in 2015, Brooke had stood by him with unwavering loyalty, giving emotional interviews in his defense words that now carry a tragic sense of irony.
Your daughter posted a beautiful poem on Facebook. If you knew the dad I knew, you'd know he raised me well. He taught me folks are so much more than shades could ever.
Hogan's response to his daughter's public support had been just as emotional, showing how deep their bond was at that point in time.
At the lowest point of my life, my personal life was destroyed. I was very mad at my daughter. I was upset over a situation that happened between her and her boyfriend, and I had no idea I was being taped. I was to the point where I wanted to kill myself. I sat in my bathroom by myself when my ex-wife was gone and the kids were gone, and I was completely broken and destroyed, and I said, what's the easiest way out of this? I mean, I was lost.
But by March 2025, the same daughter who had once defended Hulk Hogan so publicly was now making allegations that shook the very foundation of his legacy. The transformation from loyal defender to public accuser became one of the most dramatic reversals in celebrity family history. Brooke's detailed Instagram post described years of extreme verbal and mental abuse that had damaged her self-esteem, derailed her career prospects, and affected her personal relationships. These allegations weren't just about childhood trauma, but about how that trauma followed her into adulthood, shaping destructive patterns in her own relationships and professional life. Brooke explained that she had made the difficult decision to cut off contact with both of her parents as part of a therapeutic effort to break the cycle of abuse. This was not a decision made in anger, but after years of therapy and soul-searching, intensified by her near-death experience during the complicated C-section delivery of her twins. That moment became a turning point for her. Facing her own mortality while bringing to new lives into the world forced her to reflect on the legacy she wanted to leave for her children. The thought of allowing Oliver and Molly to grow up in the same dysfunctional patterns she had endured pushed her to establish firm boundaries with her parents. The twins, born in January 2025, carried names with deep meaning, Oliver even being named after Hogan himself. This choice showed the complicated love Brooke still felt for her father, honoring him through her children despite the pain and anger that had separated them. Linda Hogan's response to the allegations was swift and fiery, sparking a public war of words on social media. Linda called Brooke a narcissist like her father and strongly denied the abuse allegations, admitting only to a single spanking while dismissing Brooke's claims as the product of a wild party girl past. Linda's reaction revealed just how deep the rift had grown between mother and daughter. She also revealed that the family had no idea Brooke had married Stephen Alexi or that the twins had even been born, showing just how complete the estrangement had become. Brooke's husband, Stephen, stepped in to defend his wife, adding context about the family's dysfunction and confirming Brooke's account. He claimed to have witnessed the toxic dynamics firsthand and said his attempts to mediate had been met with hostility from Hogan's side of the family. The most striking element of this crisis was what it revealed about Hulk Hogan himself. His response was quiet and private. In stark contrast to the public feud between Brooke and Linda, those close to him said he was devastated by the accusations and by seeing private family pain play out for the world. The allegations were not just damaging because of their content, but also because of their timing. Hogan's health had been in decline for months, and insiders said the emotional stress from the public-family conflict was taking a severe toll on his physical and mental state. The combination of ongoing health struggles and public humiliation created a storm of circumstances that many feared would be too much for the wrestling legend to endure. The controversy also reignited discussion about the Hogan family's reality show, Hogan Knows Best, which had once made their dysfunction entertainment for millions of viewers. What had been portrayed as a loving but overprotective father was now being reinterpreted as controlling and manipulative behavior. Moments that were once played for laughs, Hogan installing GPS trackers on Brooke's car or intimidating her boyfriends, now looked like signs of unhealthy control. Even Hogan's investment of over $3 million into Brooke's music and wrestling career, which had been framed as support for her dreams, was now seen by some as another form of control. Therapists noted this could be viewed as financial abuse, where monetary support comes with strings attached and expectations of loyalty. The wrestling community as a whole was left grappling with how to process these revelations, with many questioning how to separate the man from the myth and whether Hogan's carefully built public persona had ever truly matched the reality behind closed doors. Hogan had been facing public relations disasters for years, from the racist comments that got him fired from WWE to legal battles and controversies over his political statements. But the allegations of family abuse hit much deeper than his public image or political views. These accusations struck at the core of who Terry Bollea was as a man, a father, and a human being. Brooke claimed that the dysfunction in their family and her father's many controversies had seriously damaged her career, showing that this wasn't just about childhood trauma, but about pain that followed her into adulthood, affecting her work and her ability to have healthy relationships. What made it even more heartbreaking was that it completely went against everything Hogan had always claimed to stand for. Throughout his career, he had presented himself as a family man who put his loved ones first above everything else. His reality show, interviews, and entire public persona were built on the idea that no matter what, he was a devoted father who would do anything for his children. But Brooke's March 2025 allegations shattered that image, exposing a family life far more complicated and painful than anyone had realized. The tragedy deepened when considering that real efforts had been made to repair the family bond, with Brooke's husband Stephen Alexi reportedly trying to mediate and create peace, especially after the birth of the twins, which had seemed like a chance for a fresh start. The family drama, however, was just one piece of Hogan's controversial life. His long and successful career had been marked by scandals that left a lasting stain on his legacy, and by the time of his death, it was impossible to separate his final years from the series of controversies that had shaped them. The man who was once the ultimate symbol of American heroism and family values had spent his last years fighting scandals, lawsuits, and PR nightmares that changed how both fans and the entertainment world saw him. The biggest hit to Hogan's reputation came in 2015 when a secretly recorded conversation revealed him using racial slurs while talking about his daughter's relationship with an African-American man. The leak happened during his legal battle with Gawker Media, and the comments were so offensive that WWE cut ties with him immediately and erased his name from their history. In a later interview, when asked about those remarks, Hogan tried to explain what he had been thinking at the time.
Are you a racist?
No, I'm not. I'm not a racist. I never should have said what I said. It was wrong. I'm embarrassed by it. But a lot of people need to realize that you inherit things from your environment.
When directly asked if he was a racist, Hogan replied, "Are you a racist?" "No, I'm not. I never should have said what I said." It was wrong and I'm embarrassed by it. But people need to realize that you inherit things from your environment. His attempt to explain his words by pointing to his upbringing got mixed reactions, with some taking it as context and others seeing it as an excuse. The racist comment scandal was especially damaging because it completely contradicted the values Hogan had spent his career promoting. His real American persona was built on patriotism and equality, which made the revelation of his private bigotry all the more shocking to fans who had admired him as a role model. But those comments were just one piece of the long list of controversies that marked Hogan's later years. The very circumstances that led to those recordings were tied to another huge scandal, the infamous sex tape, controversy that dominated headlines for years and became one of the biggest privacy lawsuits in entertainment history. The tape had been secretly recorded by Bubba the Love Sponge, Hogan's former friend and radio host, during an affair Hogan had with Bubba's then wife, Heather Clem, back in 2006. And when parts of that tape were published by Gawker Media in 2012, it unleashed a media firestorm.